I kind of feel bad for the droid. Greetings and welcome once again to Roman of the Empire. I am your host, Roman. Today we're talking about Andor Episode 11, Daughter of Ferrix. And this is the second to the last episode of this series. This one's a slow burner. Not a ton of action, and the last couple episodes have been great. This one, it's kind of gone back to form. For this series. There were a couple of really good scenes, but overall, slow burner. Not bad, but slow. Disney is making this series available on a couple other platforms, and I think that's because the response has been really poor because of things like Boba Fett and Kenobi. And the slow pace of this series isn't going to be a big draw for a lot of people. It just isn't. So I guess we'll see how it ends up turning out. So this picks up after the big prison break on Nakira 5. And like I said, the episode actually looks good, but this series has looked really good. And I think that's probably another reason Disney wants to sell it off or get it on other platforms. It looks like they did spend an awful lot of money on this. And it's just kind of going to waste. No one's watching the show. This is their lowest rated of the Star Wars shows that they've put out. Well, you guys did that to yourselves. So, Nakira 5, Cass and Melchi, after escaping the big prison platform, they're clinging to a side of the cliff. Search ships are flying over, and then they're gone, and then they make it up. And they're barefoot. They're not looking great because they've made their way across this terrain. You know, barefoot is not a great way to do that. And they see a couple Narkidians, I guess it's pronounced, some of the locals from the planet that they're on. And they look and they have a ship and they're making a run for it and they try to steal it and they get stuck in their nets. And the locals are talking how the water is all polluted and basically their fishing enterprises are destroyed now because of what the Empire has done. And they look like they're going to take Andor and Melchi in as bounty. And then they're like, no, we're not going to do that. Where do you guys need to go? So a nice turn of events. A lucky turn of events for Kaz and his partner. And they decide they're going to go back to Nemos. That's that planet, the resort planet that Cass was on before. So on Ferrix, Marva, Cassian's adoptive mother, has passed. This is a key event. In the episode, it doesn't seem like it's that, you knew it was coming, she was dying. But it looks like it's going to be a key event in the next episode, and we'll get to the why of that. And there is kind of a sad scene with her droid. And I know it seems a bit trivial, but it always makes me think of what happens to a person's pet when they die. And I think Bimo he's able to articulate it, of course, because he can speak. But it is pretty sad. The little fella just doesn't want to leave the house. And the big worker who Cass was dealing with on Ferrix before agrees to stay with him at night, then is going to take the droid in. And also we learn about bricking, which is they take the ashes of the person, they put them into a brick and then put them into a wall. It's just kind of an interesting little tidbit. But the Imperials have placed restriction on funerals and get big gatherings, which isn't surprising because they're occupying Ferrix now. But Deidre Miro at the ISB orders them to let them have the funeral because she thinks Cass Andor might come. Remember, they don't have any idea he was in the prison because he was there under a different name. So this is a series of events that have lined up to put Cass in the direct eye of the Empire. Also, we see what poor Bix looks like. Remember, she was captured and tortured with that audio device a couple episodes ago. She's not in good shape. They want to know if she knows who Anton Krieger is. Krieger was mentioned before by Luthen in trying to coordinate an attack with Saw Gerrera. They are leading Anton Krieger into a trap. We know this. But they want to know if Bix knows who he is. But Bix doesn't seem like she's even able to answer. A tear wells up in her eye, and that's about it. Pardon me. So she's not doing good. On Coruscant, Vel, who we've talked about before, she's the cousin of Mon Mothma and the rebel who led the attack on Andali, goes to Luthen's antique shop. This is a big breach of protocol as far as the spy world goes. You don't put all the people together, and she's doing that. And she talks to Luthen's assistants, Clea, to let her know that Andor's mother has passed, and that she's basically planning on going back to Ferrix. Because remember, she has orders to kill Andor, the loose end. And then she also meets with Mon Mothma. And Mon tells her about all the money problems she is having. Basically, it's a lot of credits, like 400,000 or so, that she's going to be short in this account because she's been funding the revolution. And her daughter, Lita, who's kind of, she's a teenager. I want to say she's a teenager. She's gotten really involved in traditional religious stuff from Mon's planet. Remember, they marry off at like 15 down there. Basically as a rebel move against her mom, just being a jerk. But the problem is, remember Davos, the criminal, offered to help Mon out. And marrying her daughter off to his son might end up being an option here. And it's kind of skeevy and nasty. But Mon, I don't think, sees another way out right now. And that's quite a big sacrifice. But that's the revolution. That's sacrifices have to be made. That's been a big key of the show. So then we remember that little skeevy feller, Cyril Karn. He gets contacted by that former sergeant of his. They were on Ferrix together, and they led that disastrous attack. Well, the sergeant finds out that Cass's mother has died, and he could be returning to Ferrix. So now Karn steals some money from his mother because he's that kind of guy, and clearly he's going to Ferrix as well to see if Cass is going to show up. I don't like Karn as a character. I know you're not supposed to like Karn. I don't like him, though, in ways that I don't mind other bad guys. Like Deidre Miro. I like her as a character. I think she's a good character. The way she's written, her drive, you understand her motivations. I understand his motivations as well. He's just real skeevy. He's more skeevy than my tastes require. We'll see what happens to him. Hopefully something bad. On Serga Milo, that's Saw Gerrera's base, Luthen meets with him. And he tells him about because now Saw wants to get in on this attack that he originally said he wasn't going to do with Anton Krieger. And Luthen has to tell him, look, the ISB know there's going to be a trap, and Saw's like, you're going to let Krieger and his men die for the greater good? And Saw's put off by this originally, and he just doesn't want to buy it. But then Luthen, being Luthen, kind of talks him into it. Essentially, he's like, this is just the way it has to be. Otherwise, everything we've done, over the years has been for nothing. And Saw's like, well, I guess let's call it a war. Again, the sacrifice, the cost of this revolution is high. It's not clean and shiny. It's dirty and nasty. And people have to do things that they don't want to do. As Luthen leaves, this is my favorite scene in the show. He gets essentially pulled over by an Imperial Cruiser. They're looking for, activity in the region. Luthen's ship has to pull up a fake transponder number, and the Imperials want to board him anyway. Just even though he gives them a number which comes up as valid, They want to board him anyway, just kind of for practice. But Luthen's like, nah, I'm not having any of this. So they put him in a tractor beam, and he's getting pulled back to the ship. And we've seen this a dozen times. His ship has some interesting countermeasures, though, that use the tractor beam to his advantage and basically let loose just a whole bunch of, I don't know if they're small missiles or just debris into the tractor beam dish and disable it. And then TIE fighters come out, and we get some really fun space fighting here. And it doesn't last very long, as I said. It's a very short scene, but it's a fun scene to watch. I'm up for any space battle stuff. And then Luthen, of course, blasts off into hyperspace. And where is he going? Who knows? He knows. He talked to his assistant on Coruscant, and they spoke in code. But essentially, what it meant. He's still looking for Cass, and it was very coded. So I don't know if he understands that he's going back to Ferrix or not, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see him showing up at this big end game as well. And now we're back on Namos, the resort planet that we spoke about where Cass was arrested originally. He went back there to get his credits, his weapons, his identification, all that stuff. And he's there with his buddy Melchi. And he makes a call, essentially, back to Ferrix. And I find this to be very reckless and dangerous, but that's fine. He wants to let his mother know that he's okay, but then, of course, he gets the news that she's dead. And Melchi's like, hey, we need to split up because someone needs to get the news out about what's happening at these prisons where no one's getting out and everyone's going to die. And Cass is like, yeah, sure, basically. He doesn't tell him what's going on. He just kind of holds it in, whatever. But he's obviously going back to Ferrix as well. So Ferrix, Marva's funeral is going to be the key event in that final episode. I don't know. I expect we're going to see a lot going on in that episode. This episode, like I said, was pretty slow. Key things happened, but it was the pace, man, the pace. And that's Andor's biggest downfall. A lot of people are like, well, it's really intellectual. And that's cool, but you still need to sell the property. And this is a tough sell. So a couple of good episodes and otherwise it's been an okay series though. I've liked the series overall, but like I said, I keep saying it, the pacing. Disney didn't do themselves a lot of favors with that. If they'd gone really more balls out Rogue One, I think it would have been better for them. Because we get really excited when I see those bits of action. There should be more of it. Sorry, Disney. Anyway, next week, the big finale of Andor, and we'll see what happens. I think it'll be, like I said, I think it's going to be a good closer. I hope it's a good closer. I don't see the need to make another Andor series, just like I don't see the need to make a lot of the Star Wars series they've been making, but that's okay too. I guess we'll see what Disney decides it's going to do with all these many properties that it has its fingers on, and if it wants to actually make money or drive them into the ground. That's a good question. So until next time, this has been Roman of the Empire signing off. Please like and subscribe as the channel could really use it on our slow march with in the YouTube world. So please be kind.